Hey, my friends. Good evening to you. I'm sitting on my back porch, as you can see here. It's nighttime. So I guess you could consider this kind of a Carpo after dark. Funny thing is, I have an edited video I'm getting ready to upload right now, and it's almost finished. Just as I was getting ready to finish it, and just getting ready to fall asleep as well, I came across this news that woke me right up, and I just had to share. Colorado voted to decriminalize psilocybin mushrooms today. Now, first off, psilocybin, I mean, decriminalizing, of course, what it means is that it's on the very lowest priority for police. And generally, you won't be harassed for it. It doesn't mean that it's legalized or that you can grow them or sell them. And the same thing has happened with cannabis in a lot of places. Basically, they just leave you alone for it. Or it may be even a small fine or ticket. I don't know the specifics, but earlier today, uh, when I was looking at information about the ballot measure, they had actually declared that it lost by a narrow margin. And then a few hours back, they changed their tune when they realized after the final count that it had actually won by a narrow margin, I think 50.6% or something. And, I'm ecstatic about this. This is an amazing time. First off, I live in Washington State, so hello to Colorado as your kind of sister state in a way. We were the first two to legalize cannabis. And for me, being able to go to the corner store and buy cannabis, know how it's grown, know what kind of nutrients are used, or at least what kind of fertilizers or insecticides were used, that's important to me. But more important, that people don't get arrested, harassed, and charged for stupid things like the choice to consume a plant. And I've talked about this several times, so I'm not going to go into too much detail about that. But when it comes to psychedelics, this is new. Not, I mean, new for here. If you look over in, the Dutch, I mean, they've had access to these things. Over in parts of Europe, you can go in and buy truffles, psychedelic truffles in stores, in certain shops, just like a liquor store type thing. And it's been that way for years. And we in the U.S. seem to think that psychedelics are just illegal everywhere else. Well, to burst your bubble, um, a lot of people think legalizing psilocybin is going to open up some doorway for people to, uh, you know, open up some gateway drug to people getting high. It doesn't happen that way. The legalization of cannabis, it didn't proliferate into some crazy madhouse of cannabis use. And the fact is that substances are readily available for anybody who wants to use them. Fortunately, two of the safest ones are cannabis and psilocybin mushrooms. Both of them are a couple of my favorites, and I'll tell you, I highly revere mushrooms. They're not something that I just take lightly. I kind of cringe when I see YouTubers that make light of a trip or joke around about getting high and make it something where it's, film worthy or worth recording a trip, or that kind of thing. I actually have contributed trip reports to Arrowhead for the sake of education. But I've been following Arrowhead for years, and if you're not aware of them, you should be. If you know it, if you're a psychedelic advocate, it's drug awareness and education. So the website's been around for years. It's one of the only places I've ever really donated anything to because they've just helped me so much to understand things, especially in the early days of the internet. And if I'd had the access to that as a kid, I would have learned a lot more. But the point being, of all the drugs out there and all the harm that's done to this world and to the people in this world anyway, and self-harm, psilocybin may have its ups and downs, but for everyone I know who's used it, they find it amazing for helping with depression and anxiety by helping to understand our circumstances better. And there's no other way I can put it. It's not that these things cure our problems or depression. They force you to reckon and think about it. And so for some people, they may have a bad experience because they're trying to fight against that. They're not embracing all these thoughts that are coming into their mind where they're starting to understand themselves, sometimes for the first time ever. And we all want to know ourselves to some extent. But when you shut down that frontal cortex and you start connecting those weird areas of the brain where you look into the purpose of life, the size of the universe, our purpose here upon it, and sometimes it can be a little bit scary, but that's honestly the only downside that I can see from mushrooms is people getting overwhelmed. You'd have to eat a couple kilos or more to have a reaction that would be a poison. I mean, so many people still leave comments like, well, those mushrooms are still poisonous. They're classified as poisonous. Look, psilocybin, you'd have to consume a huge amount in order to actually kill yourself. And I don't know of any case where anyone has died from psychedelic use alone. Between psilocybin mushrooms, you can become a little incapacitated if you take azirescens, which are a breed that only grow here in the Pacific Northwest on the coast. And living in Washington State, we have access to a lot of different mushrooms. I just haven't been fortunate enough to find a lot of them yet. But the point is that most people don't realize that there's a huge market out there for these mushrooms, a huge underground market, and most of the ones people sell are the cubensis, which, it's not like these are going to be available in stores now. But the fact is, now in Colorado, in Denver at least, if you're walking down the street with a bag of mushrooms and you drop it in front of a cop, you're not going to have a felony arrest, which is what it has always been. And I know this from personal experience because that is exactly what happened to me, basically. And I got arrested for an eighth of mushrooms after letting a cop search my bag. Dumb move by me, but I figured I just had some cannabis, which was just a ticket at that point. But no, that was a felony, even an eighth of mushrooms. And it was a wake-up moment for me about just how bad psychedelic charges can be. I assumed that a smaller amount would be a lesser charge, but let's put it this way. When I was busted for my mushrooms, an eighth of mushrooms, and when I was busted for growing 10 small cannabis plants, which were only like a foot tall, under fluorescent lights when I was younger, both of those charges were more than if I had gone and beat the shit out of somebody, or raped someone, or broken into some business and stole a bunch of stuff. The charges were higher. I was facing, a decade or more in prison at the highest. And this is ridiculous, and this is why drug laws need to change in this country, and that's why I'm so excited about Colorado legalizing, or at least decriminalizing, pardon me, because that's an important step in the right direction. And I'm hoping that my state will now follow, because I think that people need access to this. And it's not just, I'd like to say on one final note, a lot of people have talked about using mushrooms and MDMA and other psychedelics as psychotherapy tools. It's nothing new, but be using it for PTSD for soldiers, which is also nothing new. But one of the benefits of this is that it can help people who need it. But the one thing I don't want to see I don't want to see it legalized and regulated. In other words, I don't want to see it put under the control of doctors to prescribe. If they want to prescribe their psilocybin extracts, they're more than welcome to. But I would like to see psilocybin and DMT legal. So those are my thoughts on it. And thanks for listening. I'll talk to you all in about a week. I'm going to upload this video, then the other one. And hope you all do fantastic. Be well. See you soon.